Hello and welcome to the third part in the educational series about bladeless fans. In this video we shall look at how to build your own bladeless fan based on the designs created in the second video, how to design your own bladeless fan. We are going to go through 3 stages. In the first stage we will 3D print the bladeless fan from the STL file built in video 2. In the second stage we will 3D print the component parts required to assemble the whole fan body. And in the third stage we will be assembling the parts and connecting the electronics. Before 3D printing, we need to slice the STL file into layers, which the printer is able to print one at a time on top of each other. To do this, we will need the slicing software. I will be using Cura, which is the slicing software used for Ultimaker printers. The 3D printers that we will be using. Cura is free to download at ultimaker.com. Firstly, open Cura and load your printer. We shall be using the Ultimaker 3, as it allows double extrusion so we can print using soluble supports. We will need custom settings to maximise the quality of the print whilst minimising time and material consumption. If you only have a single extrusion printer or your bladeless fan is very large, consider printing it in sections, which you can then glue together later. In that case, just ignore the settings discussed here and use standard high-resolution settings. Load the STL file into Cura and orientate it so that it is attached to the bed and within the build volume. It should turn yellow. Next, come over to the settings and select the fine profile. Scroll down to the experimental settings and select Enable Conical Supports. This will reduce the amount of support material used and will make it easier to remove later. Then change the support overhang angle to 65. The model can then be sliced and the G-code saved to a removable device, such as a memory stick or SD card, by clicking the button at the bottom. Most of the standard settings are good enough, but feel free to have a play to see how they affect the build time shown at the bottom. Perhaps look at different interfaces and infill extruders to change the amount of soluble support material used. The model is now ready to be printed. Take the SD card or memory stick and plug it into the 3D printer you will be using and select Print. Keep an eye on the first few layers to ensure they stick to the build plate, and then collect the print once completed. Now we are going to print the remaining components for the whole fan assembly. These are the impeller housing and the fan adapter. These are much simpler than the fan profile, and so just require a single extrusion printer with standard settings and basic supports. Print the components as before and collect once finished. The impeller housing is designed not to have much overhang, but consider what could be changed to improve this. If you want to, have a go designing a better version that requires no support and is maybe a more suitable shape for the impeller that it must house. We now have all the components necessary for a bladeless fan. Snip and strip the ends of the impeller and power adapter cables to expose the ends of the wires. place the impeller inside the tower. Ensure you have passed the impeller wire through the tower. Then fasten the impeller to the tower using 4 bolts or screws. Fasten the bolts to the tower like so. Doesn't have to be particularly tight. Use an Allen key or a screwdriver as appropriate. We now need to solder the impeller and power adapter wire together. We are going to hot solder the wires. Place a heat shrink solder sleeve over the impeller wire. Make a strong mechanical connection between the 2 wires, then use a soldering iron to heat the connection and apply solder to it. Once complete, allow to cool and move the solder sleeve over the soldered connection and shrink using a heat gun. Ensure appropriate hot work training has been conducted and safety regulations are observed, such as using PPE, extraction, etc. If you are unsure about soldering, ask a trained supervisor for help. Once the soldering is done, it is just a case of assembling the tower connector and the fan section on top of the tower, like so. And there you have it, your own bladeless fan. Now plug in the power adapter and enjoy the breeze.